Are you still master of your domain?
I'm queen of the castle.
Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the shows that aired a good portion of their episodes in the 1990s that would be at home on TV screens now, and the ones that are hopelessly dated. We're excluding animated series.
Boy, those were the days, huh?
Number 5, Aged Like Milk, Family Matters. Shockingly, Steve Urkel was not supposed to be the star character on this Perfect Strangers spin-off, but the Winslow family's pesky neighbour was a scene stealer.
Up to the sky.
Family Matters transformed into a showcase for him and performer Jaleel White, who went from supporting player to practically carrying the sitcom on his back. Urkel fever was the epitome of the 90s zeitgeist.
All right, let her rip, Carl. Did I do that?
The problem with having a show so dependent on a single character's antics is that the novelty will wear off. Centering the story around Steve Urkel may have made sense at the time, however it's a decision that makes the series all but unwatchable now if you don't already have nostalgic feelings attached to it.
I never thought I'd say this in a million years, but...
But what?
I miss Steve Urkel.
Why?
Number 5, ahead of its time, Twin Peaks. While it may have seemed like a standard whodunit, David Lynch and Mark Frost's idiosyncratic small-town murder mystery didn't hesitate to get freaky.
Now you're going to be working for me. Sometimes local law enforcement has a problem with that. I hope you understand.
Well, like I said, we're glad to have you here.
Sheriff, what kind of fantastic trees have you got growing around here?
Twin Peaks combined its detective story with surrealism, metaphysics, and unapologetic melodrama. Sure, it only lasted 2 seasons during its original run in the 90s.
Looks like cable, probably no reception problems. But the true test of any hotel, as you well know, Diane, is that morning cup of coffee, which I'll be getting back to you about within a half hour.
Yet its melding of genres and tones, and its lack of crystal clear answers and spots, endeared it to a cult of fans. Thus, its cinematic scope and technique would feel more than at home on our TVs now. However, at the time, it ran completely against the grain of procedurals and sitcoms.
Dr. Lawrence Jacoby, Laura's psychiatrist.
Dr. Lawrence Jacoby.
You did it! You hit it!
Number 4, Aged Like Milk, Walker, Texas Ranger. For 9 seasons, audiences watched Chuck Norris beat the bad guys with martial arts and a strong moral code.
How's the guard?
Well, a lot better than Waxwell, I think. Can you get up? Yeah.
But as much as Walker Texas Ranger sold itself as being about the importance of law and order, it came off more like a showcase for Norris and his moves. The action crime series ended as the age of the TV anti-hero began, so the amount of time it spends lionizing his character feels bizarre in retrospect. From its stereotypical villains to its black and white morality and liberal use of slow motion, it's a show that had no time for subtlety. If anything, we're with Conan O'Brien. We stand in awe of Walker Texas Ranger and all its 90s-tastic badness, but it didn't age well.
You haven't heard the last of this, Ranger.
I'd better have.
Number 4, ahead of its time, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will Smith's fish-out-of-water sitcom found his working-class character from Philadelphia making a big splash with rich relatives in Bel-Air. Much of the humour was derived from the conflict between the two worlds, but it's also what made the frequent exploration of themes like class, race, and discrimination all the more digestible to a mainstream white audience.
No map is going to save you, and neither is your glee club, or your fancy Bel-Air address, or who your daddy is. Because when you're driving in a nice car in a strange neighborhood, none of that matters. They only see one thing.
The Fresh Prince was never afraid to have the conversation. It may have made us laugh while it taught us a few lessons, but it took its messaging seriously, and it always felt earned.
I'm running the same race and jumping the same hurdles you are, so why are you tripping me up? You said we need to stick together, but you don't even know what that means. If you ask me, you're the real sellout.
Peacock's dramatic reboot made these themes more explicit, but nothing compares to the original.
More hugs, Will.
I saved your life, man. I saved your life. You owe me!
Number 3, Aged Like Milk, Married with Children. When this sitcom premiered in 1987, it was considered oppositional programming to the feel-good family series of the era.
Any particular reason you put it where the alarm clock used to be?
I thought it would dress up the room a little bit. Oh, gee, you know, I meant to tell you to be careful before you slammed your hand on the alarm this morning.
Well, you didn't.
In fact, it was apparently originally called Not the Cosbys. Along with The Simpsons, it's one of the shows that made Fox a network powerhouse. Unlike The Simpsons, though, it failed to age up. For 11 seasons, Al Bundy and his grubby family performed their deep unhappiness and dysfunction for the world to see.
That Peg, she's got no place to go. Bud, get some sheets and a blanket for the couch so your mother will be comfortable.
Bundy's unchecked misogyny, largely cheered on by audiences at the time, is the epitome of aging like milk.
2, 4, 6, 8, don't make fun of our weight. 2, 4, 6, 8, don't make fun of our weight.
Ironically, the show's strategy of contrasting contemporary programming may have also locked it forever in its time. Number 3, ahead of its time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy Summers wasn't the only female lead of a fantasy series in the 1990s.
It's my first day. I was afraid that I was going to be behind in all my classes, that I wouldn't make any friends, that I would have last month's hair. I didn't think there'd be vampires on campus.
What sets Buffy the Vampire Slayer apart was its emotional complexity and a quality that belied its relatively smaller budget and network. Mixed in with its supernatural monsters were very grounded human stories about growing up and rising to the challenges of adulthood.
I'd just like to float something bigger than a pencil someday. Hey, how's with you and Riley? You two seem pretty snugly after class.
For instance, Willow Rosenberg's coming out narrative was an early marker of shifting attitudes surrounding LGBTQIA+ issues. Buffy's loyal and engaged following formed in the early days of the internet, and the way fans engaged with it looks fairly similar to modern-day TV fandom.
Awesome, Buffy.
See, you're a hit. Everybody loves you.
Number 2, Aged Like Milk, Home Improvement. Tim, the tall man Taylor, was a monument to male arrogance.
It's guy stuff, and women don't appreciate guy stuff, and that's the truth. I don't think a woman really understands the diaphragmatic control it takes to do all of the vowels in one belch.
That was part of what made him funny, even in the 1990s. He learned his lesson, to a point. But Home Improvement was steeped in old-fashioned gender dynamics and misogyny that, while treated casually by the show, doesn't go so unremarked upon anymore.
Because Pam had done all this Playboy stuff and they were really worried about criticism of being sexist on the show, they really kept Pam to as much of a minimum as they could anyway.
In the Home Improvement verse, men liked sports and doing DIY projects, and women nagged their husbands to take them to the opera.
I was thinking more along the line of season tickets to the opera.
Oh! That's a Greek word, isn't it? Death by music.
It's outdated stuff. Of course, Tim Allen's He-Man persona found some success on the more recent Last Man Standing, but that title should give some indication of how his type is not as popular as it used to be.
It was like the first time that guy Buddha sold his first naked cheese.
How can you feel anything but pity for a man like this?
Number 2, ahead of its time, The X-Files. Dana Scully and Fox Mulder's adventures in alien hunting and more started as a niche cultural object.
I'm Dana Scully. I've been assigned to work with you.
Oh, isn't it nice to be suddenly so highly regarded? So who did you take off to get stuck with this detail, Scully?
Actually, I'm looking forward to working with you.
Scholars and critics have notably attributed the show's growth in popularity and the rabidness of its fan base to the concurrent growth of the internet. What set The X-Files apart was that it volleyed between different styles with ease. One episode might have been more comedic, while the next might have been deadly serious. But no matter the tone, it was always well executed.
What were you doing?
You know what I was doing.
You know, I can't help thinking, Agent Scully, you're the only one with a gun. If you get infected, we don't stand a chance, do we?
It was unafraid to rewrite the rules of what it could be from week to week. Thus, it offered its loyal following constant surprises and hard-hitting tales of human drama, set against its fantastical monster stories. That'll never get old.
The rest of my body's still pretty hairy, which is
why I never go to the beach.
It doesn't quite explain the potato.
I got some warts on my hand. That doesn't quite explain the potato.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, aged like milk, Baywatch. Baywatch followed the personal lives of its physically gifted group of lifeguards on pretty beaches.
You know, you're more trouble than most riptides. Get rid of the power ski before I have you cited.
I know how hard it is for you to make up excuses to come and see me, Jill.
Spare me, Trevor.
David Hasselhoff led an ensemble cast that initially included Pamela Anderson, Carmen Electra, and a revolving door of gorgeous models turned actors. In other words, it was an anomaly. It wasn't particularly well regarded critically, even as it was airing.
Yeah, we got a couple of rocket scientists playing chicken on them jet skis just off Tower 12. Request Scarab wanted to come out and send them to their rooms for the rest of the day.
Roger that.
In fact, its entire reason for being seemed to be giving an audience the chance to ogle bodies for a certain period each week, sometimes in slow motion. Somehow, that was enough to keep it on the air for 11 seasons. You'd be hard-pressed to find a show that could survive on this business model in this day and age.
What the hell were you doing out there? Let's see. Saving lives? Oh, you call that saving lives? Nearly running one victim down so you can save another who happens to be a female?
Number 1, ahead of its time, Seinfeld. Despite what the star/co-creator of Seinfeld may think about the modern state of comedy, this self-titled sitcom still inspires much of the TV we see today.
We have to do it. It's part of our lifestyle. It's like shaving.
Oh, that is such baloney. I shave my legs.
Not every day.
Friends just talking has basically become a genre unto itself. Indeed, Seinfeld subverted everything we knew was possible in a half-hour series.
The woman across the block has nothing on,
nothing. The woman across the block has nothing on, nothing on, all through the day.
It's a mix of single camera and multicam scenes, its amoral characters, and its ability to find humour in the most ordinary things were not commonplace when it premiered in 1989. For a show that took this many risks, even some of its wildest jokes and scenarios are still really funny.
See, the hard part is to find a pasta that captures the individual.
Yeah. Why Fusilli?
Because you're silly. Get it?
How does your favourite 90s show stack up today? Tell us in the comments.
Come on, Ross, you said you wanted to talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.